Pat from Plenty with Pat here. So I'm going to go over the basics of vermicomposting, aka composting with worms, and setting up your very own worm bin. So to start off, what is vermicomposting? Vermicomposting is a process of utilizing red wriggler worms to help break down and decompose your organic food waste, and in the end they're basically going to poop out a very beneficial product for your plants and soil, and we call that vermicomposter castings. So I just got my worms in from Uncle Jim's Worm Farm, very reputable source for anything vermicomposting, and they always give you a cool bag, and I already took a peek and they look amazing in there, so I cannot wait to get started. So now I'm going to show you all the materials you need for your worm bin. So most importantly, you're going to need your bin itself. So I got mine at a local Dollar Tree for like $6, and you always want to make sure you get a tight lid. And when you get your bin, put some holes in it with a drill. Put some holes on the top as well, just so you can let them breathe. It's always important for the worms to breathe. And if you want, put a cool design like I did. I actually traced it because I am not good at art. But the next important thing is the bedding. So I got cocoa coir and regular worm bedding from Uncle Jim's Worm Farm. So great. And then stuff you guys might have at home is like the cardboard egg cartons and newspaper. And in the next process, I'll show you what we do with those just to prepare it for the actual bedding. And obviously, you're going to need your little wormies from Uncle Jim's Worm Farm or any little reputable local source that you guys may know of. So those are all the materials you really need for your worm bin. And then next, I'm going to show you how to actually put it all together. So I just finished rehydrating the coconut coir. It took a while to break it down, but this is what it looks like. Beautiful. And now I'm going to add these strips of newspaper that I cut up. It's important to wet the newspaper before you put them in there and kind of wring it out. You want your bin to kind of feel like a wet sponge, like that. A little bit of water coming out is fine, but anything more is not. It's be too wet. And this is really important because worms actually breathe through their skin. So anything too dry, they're going to die, and anything too wet, they're essentially going to drown in a sense. So always make sure your worm bin has the right amount of moisture. Stick your finger in there, do a little moisture test. If it's dry, add some water. Usually the food that you put in there will add the moisture, and if you set up your worm bin perfect to begin with, it should be fine, but always doing a little moisture check with your finger is the perfect way to go, just to make sure your worms are in the perfect environment. Hey everyone, so I just finished adding the newspaper. So as you can see, everything is in there looking really nice. I made sure the whole entire bin felt like it was a wrung-out sponge, and that it was the perfect amount of moisture for these little wormies. Like I mentioned before, that's super important for them. So now I'm gonna really just add them. It's the last step. Look at these little guys, and I only got 250 because that's all they had in stock, and I didn't want to wait, like I said before. And also, I don't really produce that much food waste since it's just me. So I'm gonna add these little guys, and I'm gonna just bend this down just a bit so you can see the process. But then I'll do another little close-up so you can see these guys. But you just want to be gentle, obviously. These are basically my new little pets. Make sure they're all out. Yep. So I just added them in, and look at these guys. So cute. My little wormies. They're little babies right now, but they want to get bigger. They're all starting to burrow because they do not like light. So I'll give you guys a few tips at the next little part, but for the most part, the last thing you need to do is just add the food. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. We are gonna add the organic food waste. So what I have here is edamame pods, apples, and grapes. I usually always cut up my food just so it's easier and creates more surface area for them. Just a thing I've always done. So I've dug 2 little holes in the center, and I'm gonna add the food in now. I'll show you guys. And you always want to cover your food when you're done at the end. So I'll sprinkle some here, and then I'll sprinkle some right there. And then, like I said, you want to cover the waste. So I'll cover it. There we go. Be gentle because the wormies are right there. So now we're going to go into the feeding. So I just fed them, and in about a week, I'll see if they broke down everything, and if they did, I'm going to add more. And if they didn't, I'm going to take note of that and add less. So usually it's recommended you feed them about once a week, and then you guys are really going to figure out the perfect amount of ratio for food intake and what they're gonna really love. So things they do love is just most vegetable and fruit scraps like grapes, bananas, apples. You kind of want to stay away from high acid fruits like lemons and limes. That high acid content is really going to mess up the environment for your worm bin. You also want to stay away from meat, fish, bones, and dairy. That's going to only make your pile smell and it's not going to break down properly. Those aren't usually recommended for backyard composting piles anyway. And also you want to stay away from like really starchy foods like pancakes and bread. They could break it down, but it's going to take them a lot longer. So I definitely try and stay away from those. So now that we finished our very first worm bin, we're going to talk about some tips, and the thing we're going to start off with is temperature. So for most backyard operations, you ideally want to see your compost pile reach at least 130 degrees for at least 3 days, and sometimes that temperature could go as high as 170, 180 for very hot piles. But for vermicomposting, it's very different. They thrive in environments that are between 50 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Now this is important because anything lower, they will like freeze to death and die. Anything hotter, they'll just shrivel up. And anything that, if you're very close to the extremes, they're gonna not be working as hard and they'll be stunted. So always have a thermometer. I have a few from Real Temp. I have this really big one and I have a much smaller one. But Real Temp is a very reputable source, and it's always going to give you a very nice accurate reading. So always have a thermometer ready, and check your pile every now and then just to make sure the temperature is right. So just a few more tips in terms of keeping where you're going to keep your bin. You always want to make sure it's not in direct light. Worms do not like light or heat. So I'm either going to keep my bin in my room away from the window in direct light, or in my garage, which is obviously going to be shaded and enclosed. So that's going to be a very nice environment for them. And in the winter, you could put a cloth over it just to insulate it, and that should be good for very harsh winters because you could do this literally all throughout the year. And yeah, those are the really big tips. And also you want to take into account that when you're harvesting your worm castings, and I'll do another video months from now, using the light is actually going to work in your favor because you could shine a light on them, they're all going to burrow, and you can collect the castings from the top. So keep that in mind, but I'll obviously bring that up when I make that video. And just another last tip is that your worms might try to escape at any point in your little worm venture. That's going to be just your average thing that's going to happen. First off, like, they're not used to in this environment. They're probably shocked or scared. They just came in from a box shipped all the way from Pennsylvania, so you know they're not used to the environment. So let them like get settled in, and if they do try, just put them back in. No worries. So don't be worried if they try and escape. If you find them at the top of your lid, it's just gonna happen sometimes. And that's really it. Another cool thing that you guys might want to know, which is just a cool fact, not something you really need to know, is that these worms actually have both male and female reproductive organs. So they're essentially mate with themselves and lay their own eggs. So you might find little golden brownish little eggs, like little balls in your bin. Don't be alarmed, those are just little babies who are wearing a hat. So more wormies. So that's it for today. We created our very first worm bin. Super excited to get this journey started. It's going to take around a few months for them to like fully break down all the bedding, all the food, and for you to actually harvest your worm castings and your vermicompost. But that's way down the line. Right now I'm just here to take care of them. These are my new little pets, and I'm going to love and care for them every single day. And yeah, I hope you guys do the same thing. Show me your videos, send me your updates, do everything. I want to see how your worm bins are coming along. And if there's any questions or comments or concerns, you guys can always reach out to me at my Instagram, Planting with Pat, and I'm always willing to help out. So I hope everyone enjoyed this video, and go make your worm bin.